立法會主席
President. Questions. Question 1. Mr. Frankie YICK. It is learned that the Airport Authority Hong Kong, AAHK, aims to complete the 3-runway system 3RS at the Hong Kong International Airport HKIA within this year, to be followed by the progressive commissioning of the relevant facilities in phases, and it is expected that from 2035 onwards, the airport will be able to handle 120 million passenger trips and 10 million tons of cargo annually. In this connection, will the government inform this council, 1, given that the airport's passenger and cargo handling capacities will be enhanced significantly, of the government-specific measures in place to attract more airlines to set up their base in Hong Kong and launch more routes, so as to strengthen Hong Kong's aviation network. 2, of the measures in place to ensure sufficient support personnel at the airport, including ground crews, baggage handlers, aircraft maintenance mechanics, catering service personnel, etc., to cope with the passenger and cargo handling capacities, which will be enhanced significantly. And 3, as there are views pointing out that the fees charged by the airport are high relative to those charged by the airports in neighboring regions, thereby undermining the competitiveness of the air cargo industry in Hong Kong, whether the government will request the airport authority to conduct a comprehensive review to see if there's room for downward adjustment of the current fee levels. If it will, of the details, if not, the reasons for that. Secretary for Transport and Logistics. Hong Kong is an international aviation hub. This positioning is recognized in the National 14th Five-Year Plan and the Outline Development Plan for the Greater Bay Area to cater for the long-term air traffic demand and to enhance the passenger and cargo capacity. The AA is developing the 3-runway system, 3RS, at the airport. The 3rd runway was commissioned in 2022 as scheduled, and the target is to commission the 3RS by the end of this year. The AA will open relevant passenger facilities by phases in light of the passenger traffic demand. The expanded airport will be able to handle 120 million passengers and 10 million tons of cargo per year from 2035 onwards. In this connection, the government and the AA have launched a series of measures to implement national strategies and to enhance the long-term competitiveness of Hong Kong's aviation industry. My reply to the question raised by Mr. Frankie YICK is as follows. 1. At present, there are about 120 airlines operating flights between HKIA and some 180 destinations worldwide, with the number of destinations at about 80% of the pre-pandemic level. The daily passenger throughput and the number of flight movements have recovered up to about 80% and 90% of the pre-pandemic levels, respectively. As for cargo, the HKIA remained as the world's busiest cargo airport in 2022, and we are confident in maintaining this position in 2023. Leveraging the opportunities brought by the 3RS and our country's support of the Air Silk Road, the government will focus on the current major routes and routes along the Belt and Road with potential, including destinations in Europe, Africa, South America, and Asia, negotiate and enhance air services agreements and strengthen aviation services between Hong Kong and these regions. While local airlines are actively resuming their services, they are also launching new routes. The Transport and Logistics Bureau, TLB, encourages them to enhance their services in response to market demand and in line with our country's development strategies. The AA has also been discussing with non-local airlines to launch and increase flights to and from Hong Kong, as well as working with the relevant parties to step up publicity efforts to boost the demand for travel to Hong Kong for leisure and business purposes. We also seek to expand HKIA service catchment in the Greater Bay Area. On the passenger side, the AA has built the Sky Pier Terminal, introduced the Fly via Zhuhai Hong Kong passenger service, and set up city terminals in the GBA to make it more convenient for passengers from the GBA to use the HKIA for overseas travel. On the cargo side, The AA is working with Dongguan to develop the sea-air intermodal cargo transshipment mode and will actively pursue the provision of cold chain cargo services in the logistics park set up in Dongguan. The AA will also join hands with Zhuhai to develop international cargo business. In addition, in respect of international air cargo services, the TLB is flexibly approving applications from airlines to operate additional flights having regard to their operational needs and market demand. On hardware, following the opening of the DHL Expanded Hub and China Smart Gateway last year, together with the UPS's new hub facility to be completed by 2028, HKIA by then will be able to handle a total of about 9 million tons of cargo each year. The AA will continue to actively attract international cargo forwarders and major global retailers to set up their Asian aviation logistics base in Hong Kong. 2. In terms of manpower, the government established the Maritime and Aviation Training Fund (MATF) in 2014 and supported the AA to set up the Hong Kong International Aviation Academy (HKIAA) in 2016 to promote the professional development of the aviation industry and attract more young people to join the industry. In collaboration with the airport community, the AA has been actively enhancing the working environment and welfare of practitioners, as well as applying technology and smart techniques in airport services to reduce the pressure on manpower. To support the continual recovery of air traffic after the pandemic, in addition to active local recruitment, the government launched a labor importation scheme specific to the aviation industry in July last year. Regarding the manpower demand after commissioning of the 3RS, the AA will conduct a fresh round of airport manpower survey this year to review the manpower situation. 3. As for airport charges, an independent international consultancy renowned in the aviation industry conducts a review on the charges of major international airports annually. In the 2023 report, which covers around 50 major international airports, HKIA's overall airport charges ranked in the mid-tier and were generally lower than many hub airports in Asia and beyond, including London Heathrow Airport, Singapore Changi Airport, and Osaka Kansai Airport in Japan, etc. Moreover, we believe that airlines and different service providers at the HKIA do not only compare the charges, they seek to achieve cost effectiveness. The AA will continue to closely monitor market development and regularly review airport charge levels. Thank you, President. Mr. Frankie YICK. Thank you, President. When answering my second question, the Secretary said that after the commissioning of the 3RS, in this year, the government will launch another airport manpower survey. We have approximately 70,000 people working at the airport before the pandemic. We only have 50,000 odd people now. Thanks to the labor importation scheme, we have half the quotas met, but there is a condition. We need to have hired one local employee before they can import an employee. So with the commissioning of the 3RS, we would need 120,000. With the labor importation scheme, at most we can get 75,000 employees at the airport. We will not be able to meet the demand. Will you be able to relax that restriction on labor importation? Thank you. Secretary. As I said in the main reply, the AA will conduct a fresh round of airport manpower survey in this year to review the manpower situation after commissioning of the 3RS. We will also review the types of jobs needed and the mean of wages provided for the airport staff in this survey. As for the condition imposed on the labor importation scheme, we will review that after the survey to see if we can improve the scheme. Thank you. Mr. Tommy Chung. We have talked about the big picture. With the specifics, however, it is said that we can import 6,300 people, but we have only approved 2,400 people, but only 1,800 people came. We are starting the second round of the importation scheme, but we still do not have all of those who are approved in the first round come to Hong Kong. Right now, we have a manpower shortage. We are not short in jobs. Can the TLB work with the LWB, the Labor and Welfare Bureau, to expedite the progress of implementing measures? Just expedite the consultation process, because we really need people to work in the airport for the summer holidays. If we can't deal with this manpower shortage soon, people will be complaining about the services provided by the airport. Thank you, Secretary. President, as said by Mr. Tommy Cheung, in the first round, we have approved 2,841 places, and many of them have arrived in October of last year. We have approved visas of 1,800, and we have 1,200 people who have already arrived in Hong Kong. And on 13th of March this year, and the 26th of March of this year, we have the second round of the labor importation scheme. We will soon have the results for the second round. With the labor importation scheme, we have already expedited the process, but of course there is always room for improvement. As I said earlier, after the fresh round of airport manpower survey is conducted, we will review the implementation details of the labor importation scheme. But let me say this again, this is already a streamlined arrangement. And in July of last year, we have rolled out this labor importation scheme, and we already have 1,000 odd people working here in Hong Kong this year. With the trade getting familiar with the procedures, in the second round, we could see that they have made arrangements very soon to import labor. Thank you. Mr. Jeffrey Lam. President, the Secretary said that reviews would have to be conducted. It seems that they are not taking into account the acute demand of manpower. We really need to expedite the recovery of the economy. With the airport, the passenger and cargo handling capacity have to be enhanced. I hope that the government can ask the flagship companies to set up destinations in Hong Kong, or at least put them back after they have been relocated to somewhere outside Hong Kong. With the report, it was said that the landing fee only is ranked in the mid-tier with other airports, but we're not comparing to airports in London or in other places outside China. We should be competing with other airports in the mainland, such as the airport in Shenzhen, the Shenzhen Bao'an Airport. Thank you. Secretary, thank you. As I said in the main reply, the airport charge levels, well, please sit down, let the Secretary answer the question. Hong Kong is an airport hub, and the airport in Shenzhen and other Greater Bay Area cities do not compare. And if we look at the manpower costs and the rent levels, we really can't compare our levels to airports in the mainland. I think it would be an unfair comparison. If we can enhance services in the HKIA to attract more airlines to set up their operations in Hong Kong and increase passenger demand, that is the best way to increase competitiveness. Thank you, Mr. Jimmy. My question is similar to that of Mr. Jeffrey Lam. We have been using some low tech to aid the operations of the airport. How much have we done to accommodate the increase in passenger and cargo cargo demand? With the commissioning of the 3RS, will we employ new technologies to lower the costs of the operations of the HKIA? The Secretary said that airports in the Greater Bay Area are not our competitors, but I disagree. I think we should have the Secretary answer the question specifically as to how we are to accommodate the significant increase in cargo and passenger throughput with the commissioning of 3RS. Secretary, thank you. With the commissioning of the 3RS, we will employ a series of innovative technologies. We will expand the usage of smart check-in counters. We will also make use of facial recognition for departure checks of passengers. We will also make use of smart baggage handling system and smart vehicles to convey baggage. Starting from this year, we'll make use of another smart system that will expedite the customs clearance procedures that will in turn facilitate passengers as well. The Airport Authority will continue to review the situation to see if there is any need to employ other forms of innovative technologies to aid the development of the 3RS. Thank you. Mr. Yu Pui-leung. Thank you, President. We really need to increase our capacity to meet the demand, whether it's passenger or cargo demand. And in last year, I have raised a question that is similar to that of Mr. Frankie YICK today. But I do not see any difference with the replies being provided. We have only recovered the number of destinations to 80% of the pre-pandemic levels. What is going to happen to the rest? We still don't know. But I digress. We need to really expedite labor importation. We have now 1,000 odd people arrived in Hong Kong, but is that fast enough? We really need to enhance efficiency because the current speed is not acceptable. For the reply given to the third question, I'm not sure if the Bureau understands that there are two types of charges for the airport. There are charges for the operators, for example, shops and airlines, and the charges for passengers. That is a different one. So can you talk about, when you're talking about airport charges being ranked in the mid-tier, are you referring to the charges for the operators or for the passengers? Since you already have a consultancy review on this, can you provide more such information on this? Because my understanding is that we are not competitive enough. We have relatively high charges. Did you consider the airport construction tax as well? Thank you. President, we have the departure tax, landing tax, passenger tax, as well as a terminal tax security tax and environmental tax, such as for noise and emissions for the airport charges. And we have also compared all of these charges to those of other airports. As for the issue on departure tax, in 2004, we have maintained it at the level of $120 for each passenger age 12 or above. And that is just a minor part of the fees that passengers would have to pay. As for what the members said about rents or fees to be charged to shops at the airport or other operators, we have, with reference to the Airport Management Ordinance, and the airport authority has been running the operations of different operators and shops with reference to the ordinance. And most of the shops and operators are recruited by tendering, and the rent levels and fee levels are set based on prevailing market prices. We have reviewed the prices or fee levels continuously, and starting from 2023, we have seen that there is a decrease of 16% with the levels charged to the fees. Excuse me, I have asked also whether they will consider charging an airport construction tax. Thank you. With the commissioning of the 3RS, we have charged the airport construction tax. And once we have reached a payback period, we will no longer charge that tax. Question 2.
Mr. Kenneth LAU. President, the Patriotic Education Law of the People's Republic of China, Education Law, which took effect on the 1st of January this year, aims to strengthen patriotic education as well as inherit and promote the spirit of patriotism. In addition, the 2023 policy address has proposed the establishment of a working group on patriotic education, working group, and a Chinese Culture Promotion Office, CCPO, to take forward the relevant education and promotion work. In this connection, will the government inform this council, 1, when the working group will commence operation of the working group's membership, mode of operation and terms of reference, as well as the details of its activities currently in preparation. 2, whether CCPO will make good use of the abundant heritage and monument resources in the northern metropolis, such as the Heritage Trail in Shuttlecock in commemoration of the War of Resistance and the Cenotaph for Martyrs in Wukaotong, to systematically organize some heritage and monument visits and guided tours of educational significance, if so, of the details, if not the reasons for that. And 3, whether it will consider constructing a museum on the history of the Communist Party of China, a museum on the War of Resistance, as well as a dedicated museum that showcases the development and achievements of the country in the northern metropolis, and building the metropolis into a large-scale national education base so as to better implement the directives and requirements of the education law, if so, of the details, if not the reasons for that. Secretary for Constitution and Mainland Affairs. President, in consultation with relevant bureau, the consolidated reply for the question raised by Mr. Kenneth LAU is as follows. As announced by the Chief Executive in the policy address last year, the government will roll out patriotic education, and a working group on patriotic education working group will be established under the Constitution and Basic Law Promotion Steering Committee, CBL-PSC, led by the Chief Secretary for Administration. The working group will coordinate the work of government departments and non-governmental organizations in taking forward national education and dovetailing with the Patriotic Education Law of the People's Republic of China, Patriotic Education Law, with a view to enhancing education on our country's history, culture, and current affairs on different fronts, thereby promoting patriotism and ensuring its continuity from generation to generation. Established on the 8th of April 2024, the Working Group on Patriotic Education comprises the relevant directors of bureau, heads of departments, and leaders from the relevant sectors of society. To take forward patriotic education in an all-round manner, the Working Group will focus efforts on various key aspects, including school education, local community, history, politics, economy and culture, and media publicity. The Chief Secretary for Administration will, through the Working Group, provide steer on the work to promote patriotic education with a view to integrating patriotic education with national security education and Chinese culture education, stepping up promotion efforts at school and community levels, and making good use of various media platforms for publicity purposes so as to blend patriotic education with citizens' everyday life and continuous learning. Taking into account, with a holistic approach, the current societal situation and the spirit and relevant content of the patriotic education law, the Working Group will formulate the overall plan and strategy to systematically combine efforts of the government and the community in enhancing the national awareness and sense of patriotism among various sectors of the community, and take forward patriotic education in the Hong Kong Special Administrative Region, Hong Kong SAR. We are actively making preparations to convene the first meeting of the Working Group as soon as possible. The specific work directions and plans of the Working Group will be announced in due course. Patriotic education is rich in content, including public education on the history of and Hong Kong's contributions to the war of resistance against Japanese aggression, war of resistance. The Hong Kong SAR government has been attaching great importance to the history in commemorating the war of resistance, enhanced national confidence and patriotism among the general public. On optimizing the use of heritage and monument resources, the Hong Kong Museum of Coastal Defense (MCD), under the Leisure and Cultural Services Department (LSCD), held the Fight as One Anti-Japanese Guerrillas series program in 2023-24, including field visits to the sites of the War of Resistance and war-related historic sites and memorial facilities at Wu Kau Tung and Shuttlecock, etc. In future, the CCPO and MCD under the LCSD will join forces to design and organize guided tours by making use of the historic sites in association with the War of Resistance in the Northern Metropolis, including the Law Oak, currently the Hong Kong Shuttlecock Anti-Japanese War Memorial Hall at Shuttlecock, and that was used by the Hong Kong and Kowloon Independent Brigade of the East River Column as a space of operations and transportation checkpoint, as well as the memorial monument for martyrs during World War II at Wu Kau Tung. Such guided tours are expected to commence in September this year. Besides the Northern Metropolis, CCPO and MCD will also explore the use of historic sites associated with the War of Resistance and related memorial facilities in Sai Kung, Yuen Long, and Central Districts to plan further guided tours to boost the understanding and awareness of the War of Resistance history in the public. To enhance public understanding of the history of the War of Resistance, MCD will be converted to the Hong Kong Museum of the War of Resistance and Coastal Defense in September this year. It will organize a series of educational and extension programs related to the War of Resistance for schools and the public to further promote the awareness of the history as well as the significant contributions by the Hong Kong and Kowloon Independent Brigade of the East River Column during the war. In addition, the Chief Executive announced in the policy address last year that the government would set up a museum to showcase the development and achievements of our country, covering areas such as its history, including the history of the Chinese Communist Party, politics, economic development, and culture. LCSD is currently working with the Development Bureau and other relevant departments to explore and identify the best site for the new museum. When designing and developing the exhibition contents, CCPO will consult relevant mainland authorities or museums and draw reference from their views and information. We will also consult the Legislative Council and various stakeholders on the general planning and future development of museums in Hong Kong. Regarding the suggestion of building a national education base in the Northern Metropolis, we understand that the key functions of the base proposed by Mr. Lau include the provision of a national education platform, teacher training, and exchange activities to promote national education, etc. National education and national security education have already incorporated elements and spirit of patriotic education, which form an integral part of school curriculum. The Education Bureau has been adopting taking a multi-pronged and coordinated approach to support and encourage primary and secondary schools to deliver national education and national security education and dovetail such education with the content of the patriotic education law. Among others, teacher training has been strengthened, such as regularly providing teaching resources on current affairs and history of the country. National affairs education for students has been enhanced, and the Chinese culture immersion activities have been organized with the aim of nurturing students from young as good citizens with a sense of belonging to our country. Besides, various patriotic groups have been staging exhibitions, setting up exhibition venues, and organizing different forms of activities on their own initiative to support the various sectors in the community in taking forward national education. One example is the Patriotic Education Center, established by the Hong Kong Federation of Education Workers. We will encourage various sectors of the community to better utilize these resources to enrich the content and experience of patriotic education. As remarked by President Xi Jinping, patriotism is the core of our national spirit and is the spiritual bond of the Chinese nation's unity, struggle, and self-reliance. Patriotic education is not a matter for an individual person or organization. It requires the concerted efforts and active participation of various sectors of the community to get it done well. Truly, unity is strength. The newly established Working Group on Patriotic Education will closely liaise and work with the relevant bureau and departments to launch a series of patriotic education activities and encourage various sectors of the community to organize activities on their own initiative with a view to creating a patriotic atmosphere in a united manner and contributing to the great rejuvenation of Chinese nation and to safeguarding our national security. Thank you, President. Mr. Kenneth LAU, I'm glad to hear that the government has established a working group on patriotic education and is work with dovetail with the contents of the patriotic education law. The patriotic education law stresses the importance of promoting national education through cultivating habit and a sense of belonging. Now, in Hong Kong, we have these various war memorial sites, and students should go and visit them, and so they will learn. And also, there should be a museum on the Chinese development, so students could learn about our country's development. I wonder if the government has any plan to promote further such activities in Hong Kong. And then there's need to ensure sufficient places for visitors. Thank you for your further questions. The answer is yes. The working group, as I said, will coordinate the work of different departments and policy bureau as well as NGOs in taking forward patriotic education. They will formulate strategies and policies and arrangements. Mr. Lau refers to different approaches, maybe a softer approach with different groups and in mind. Now, after the working group is set up, we will call a meeting as soon as possible, and then we will tap the wisdom of individuals and the community, and then together we could further strengthen patriotic education. Ms. Maggie Chen. Now, the Secretary in his main reply said that the Museum on the Coastal Defense will be turned into the Hong Kong Museum of the War of Resistance and Coastal Defense in September this year. Now, the Hong Kong and Kowloon Independent Brigade of the East River Column made huge contributions during the War of Resistance. Now, for the 115 martyrs, are you going to issue them with certificates of martyrs, and for the remaining surviving members of the brigade, will you be commending them further? This is a way for us to pass on the sense of patriotism from generation to generation. Secretary for Culture, Sports and Tourism. Now, as mentioned in the main reply, we're going to rename the Hong Kong Museum of Coastal Defense. This is for us to include more information about what happened during the War of Resistance. In September this year, we're going to co-organize an exhibition with the Shenzhen side. So we could showcase what happened during the War of Resistance and the effort made by the East River Column. Now, Ms. Chen asked if there will be another commendation system for the martyrs. I'm sure the working group on patriotic education could discuss this issue further. Now, what can the Hong Kong SAR do to commend patriots who've made huge contributions and sacrifices? Now, apart from the 115 martyrs, there were many others who did much as patriots. So this is something we could consider further on what we can do for them. Yes, Secretary for Constitution and Mainland Affairs. Thank you, President. Well, I'm sure in response to Ms. Chen's question, so more groups and organizations could see what more the government could do to help them. If I may say a bit more on that. On patriotic education, of course, the government has to take the lead, but it's not for the government alone to do the work. We want the entire community to work together with the government for us to do a good job in patriotic education. So, for various historic events, and if anyone has any suggestions on what we can do about them, now we're going to set up a secretariat of the working group, and so if you have any good ideas, please do send them to us, and then the working group could discuss the various ideas and see what we can do. Thank you. Mr. Chu Kwok-keung. Now we need a special gallery on the developments of the country. If it could be located in the northern metropolis, this is a balanced arrangement compared to other museums in the urban district, because I think it's better to set up a dedicated museum on the developments of the country in the northern metropolis rather than converting any existing museums in the urban areas. So my question is it really necessary for a museum on the country's developments to be set up in the urban areas? Which public officers would give a reply. Secretary SCST. Now, we want to build a museum on the achievements and developments of the country. We would like this museum to be located in the urban areas. We've explained the reason for that, because this is a very important museum. We want it to be easily accessible by the public. At the same time, if the museum is in the urban areas, it will be more accessible to visitors. Now, this is a very important museum that showcases the achievements of the country to the people of Hong Kong and to other visitors. It's an important part of our patriotic and national education. And then it will help to foster a sense of identity to the country. And then with this museum, we would like it to show the visitors from around the world what the achievements of our country are. Now, we are supposed to be an exchange hub on Eastern Western culture, so this is also a way for us to tell a good story about our country. That's why it remains our plan to set up such a museum in the urban areas. In the northern metropolis, there will be a cluster of museums. Maybe then we could also do various exhibitions on different subjects. As for the overall planning of museums, we would like to have some discussion with the relevant panels of this council as soon as possible, so that we can listen to your views. Thank you. Mr. Stanley, Now, promoting Chinese culture is an important foundation for the promotion of patriotic education. The government still has not explained the work of the Working Group on Patriotic Education and the Chinese Culture Promotion Office, how they're going to coordinate with each other in their work. Now, a few years ago, a state leader, the Vice Premier Han Jing, has confirmed that the FTU is patriotic organization. So can you tell us, for primary and secondary school students, maybe they can visit the headquarters of our union because we have over 100 years of history. Will the government try to promote that? Which public officer will reply to the question? Secretary SCMA. Now, we encourage local community groups and organizations to join us in our effort to promote patriotic education. We have now set up the Working Group on Patriotic Education. If you have any suggestions or specific ideas, please do forward them to the Secretariat of the Working Group, and the Secretary is actually my bureau. And then we will make the necessary arrangements for discussion at the working group. Mr. Kenneth LAU. Now, I think it's a good channel to use sports to promote patriotic education. The country has been really kind to us since 2008. After each Olympic Games, the gold medalists of the country were sent to Hong Kong to visit us. So we'll learn about the development of sports in the country. Now, I'd like to ask whether you've sent out invitations to the country so that there will be arrangements for gold medalists to visit Hong Kong after the Paris Olympics. Now, it's necessary to have more time to plan all this, so you need to approach them early. Have you done so? Which public officer will reply to the question? SST. Of course, we will seize upon every opportunity to promote patriotic education. As Mr. Zhang, SCMA, said just now, different sectors in the community could all contribute to the promotion of patriotic education. In terms of the sports sector, yes, we could also work together on various fronts. Yesterday, the CE announced that the government has secured the broadcasting rights of the Paris Olympics, and we, in our cooperation with TV operators, we have asked that they do more broadcasting about events participated by our country's athletes, because this is a good chance to showcase the achievements of our country's athletes to the people of Hong Kong. Now, also, there are many in Hong Kong who would like to support the country. They would like to witness firsthand the performance of the country's athletes in various competitions. Now, of course, we will also liaise early with the relevant sports authorities of the country, so that for medalists and other athletes of the country, they can visit Hong Kong after the Paris Olympics. They could come and meet with our citizens, and maybe they could also have exchanges with our own athletes, and as well as secondary and primary students. There could be direct interaction and exchanges. And so people will see the perseverance of country's athletes in contributing to the country's development. Thank you.
Question 3. Mr. Chan Han-pan. President, it is learned that different brands of China-made new energy vehicles, NEV, have shown an interest in entering the Hong Kong market one after another. In this connection, will the government inform this council, 1, has it as it is learned that at present, Hong Kong mainly adopts the European standards for examining imported vehicles and has not formally adopted Chinese standards, which has resulted in the examination process of China-made vehicles running into difficulties of varying degrees time and again, and has deterred members of the public who wish to buy such vehicles from doing so. Whether the authorities will consider adopting Chinese standards for vehicle examination in the future, if so, of the specific timetable, if not the reasons for that. 2. As it is learned that many members of the public wish to buy left-hand drive vehicles imported from the mainland, and regions where right-hand drive vehicles are predominantly used, such as Japan and Europe, also accept the use of left-hand drive vehicles, whether the authorities will, in light of the increasing digitization and intelligentization of road traffic in Hong Kong, consider relaxing the vehicle registration of left-hand drive vehicles, if so, of the specific timetable, if not the reasons for that. And 3, with technological advancement, whether the authorities have plans to rearrange manpower for the examination of imported vehicles so as to tie in with the use of China-made NEVs in Hong Kong, if so, of this specific timetable and plan, if not the reasons for that. Secretary for Transport and Logistics. President, after consulting the Transport Department TD, my consolidated reply to the question raised by Mr. Chan Han-pan is as follows. 1. The TD approves vehicle construction in accordance with the requirements of the Road Traffic Ordinance RTO Cap 374 and its subsidiary legislation. The Road Traffic Construction and Maintenance of Vehicles Regulations Cap 374A stipulates requirements for vehicle construction in various parts of a vehicle, including the maximum dimensions, maximum weight, overhang, motive power, axle loading, etc. of the vehicle. The legal provisions do not stipulate standards of certain regions, but the objective vehicle construction standards. The TD has been accepting submissions of Guobiao GB from the trade to substantiate that vehicles or their components comply with the objective vehicle construction standards stipulated in the legislation. In addition to GB, the TD also accepts other international standards, including those of the United Nations Economic Commission for Europe, UNECE. Regarding individual vehicle components such as public light bus seats and their anchorages, head restraints, headrests, speedometers, speed limiters, etc., the TD will list the standards of different regions in the legislation for the trade's reference. In addition, the TD will also provide the trade with the latest technical guidelines in response to the development of automotive technology, in which applicable GB standards and standards of other regions will also be suitably listed. The TD has been regularly reviewing and revising existing legislation and guidelines in response to relevant vehicle standards in different countries and regions to cope with the latest development of the automotive market. Since 2010, the TD has accepted GB standards as one of the approved specifications for approving electric vehicles, EVs. 2. Hong Kong currently follows the traffic rule of driving on the left side of the road, that is left-hand traffic. Transport infrastructures and traffic management measures are designed and developed based on this traffic rule. On left-hand traffic roads, the steering wheel of a vehicle is positioned on the right side, which corresponds to a right-hand drive vehicle. The design of left-hand drive vehicles in general does not align with the transportation and road systems of left-hand traffic. In fact, different regions around the world have their own considerations when formulating traffic rules and vehicle standards. Many regions impose restrictions on the use of vehicles which are incompatible with the road systems. Under the prevailing left-hand traffic rule, when right-hand drive vehicles are driven on Hong Kong's roads, motorists enjoy a relatively wider field of vision. This is particularly important when overtaking a vehicle in front. On the contrary, when left-hand drive vehicles are driven on Hong Kong's roads, the field of vision of motorists will be narrowed and limited. This may pose a high risk on the motorists, especially when overtaking, turning right at priority junctions, using roundabouts, or merging onto expressways from slip roads. Besides, most of the payment facilities at car park entrances or exits in Hong Kong are positioned on the right side of the vehicle for the convenience of the motorists, whereas the doors for picking up and dropping off passengers and the facilities for passenger queuing are mainly positioned on the left side of the vehicle. However, in accordance with the provisions of Cap 374A, the TD may also, subject to certain terms and conditions as considered appropriate, issue permits to authorize the use of individual left-hand drive vehicles on Hong Kong's roads under particular circumstances, such as cross-border mainland official vehicles or corporate vehicles with quotas, special purpose vehicles, etc. In view of the above road safety and traffic management considerations, the established practice in Hong Kong is to adopt right-hand drive vehicles on left-hand traffic roads and restrict the use and registration of left-hand drive vehicles. 3. All vehicles, regardless of NEVs or fossil fuel vehicles, must comply with the requirements of the RTO before they can be registered and licensed. All vehicle examinations are conducted in accordance with these requirements. To support the introduction of different NEVs, the TD issued guidelines on vehicle construction approval requirements for EVs in 2010. The latest version was released in May 2023, facilitating different vehicle trades and providing relevant technical information on EVs to simplify applications for EV approval. The TD has also issued new guidelines on the batch processing mechanism to the trade in 2022 to allow the trade to introduce EVs in batches and simplify the application process for EV approval of the same model. As of the end of February 2024, over 400 EV models have been approved by the TD, including around 70 models of China-made EVs. The TD will review the vehicle examination process and manpower arrangements while revising the vehicle standards for better cost-effectiveness. The TD will continue to maintain close liaison with the trade and update guidelines, vehicle examination process and manpower arrangements in a timely manner. Thank you, President. Mr. Chan Han-pan. President, quite many practitioners in the trade told me that while they passed the vehicle examinations, but then there were still difficulties in terms of the importation of China-made EVs. So I'd like the administration to deal with these standards more seriously. On rearranging manpower arrangements in relation to the examination of fossil fuel vehicles and EVs, the procedures are actually the same. You needed to hand it to the EPD, while at present you need to check whether there are any exhaust gases. So you should have gone to the EMSD instead of the EPD, so some manpower has gone to waste. You have already asked 2 questions, Mr. Chan. Well, those were not questions, those are my views, so the administration does not have to reply to you. My question is, quite many members of the public see China-made EVs in the mainland and they would like to buy these vehicles and use them in Hong Kong, but then there are left-hand drive vehicles. Say Australia also accepts these vehicles, but then they are not allowed in Hong Kong. Will the administration study this issue? That is, are safety concerns are really considerations? Or what is the position of the administration? This attitude does not sound too good. Will the administration consider carrying out studies? Secretary. President, Mr. Chan asked a question. Well, for the other 2 views, you do not have to reply, but I do want to clarify. Probably you can make clarifications in your written reply. Otherwise, we cannot cater to all members. Please answer the last question from Mr. Chan. The last question is about whether the administration will carry out studies in relation to safety concerns. According to the Hong Kong Police Force, between 2020 and 2023, accidents involving left-hand vehicles were below 10. The left-hand drive vehicles, there were fewer left-hand drive vehicles in Hong Kong, so the base figure is actually lower. So we need to study the safety concerns. Whether we need to conduct a study, we first of all need to get a hold of more statistics. Then, with these figures or statistics, we can see how we can do better in this regard. Do we really have a huge demand for left-hand drive vehicles? If there were such high demands in Hong Kong, car manufacturers would not find it difficult to manufacture left-hand drive vehicles and have them registered in Hong Kong before they can be sold. Thank you, President. Mr. Frankie YICK. Thank you, President. We all know that we are moving towards EVs around the world. This is the trend. The mainland market is the main manufacturer of EVs. In Hong Kong, the number of EV private cars, some 11%, and about 9% out of all vehicles in Hong Kong. The figures are not great, and that is due to type approval, as put by Mr. Chan. Type approval takes too long time. The Secretary just now said we have already done a lot of these procedures covering over 400 or so, but still the waiting time is very long. How can we move faster, expedite the process? Will the administration increase manpower in this connection? Secretary. President, I'd like to talk about manpower arrangements. Do we need to increase manpower to expedite the approval process? In the past, it took longer time to approve EVs because the applicant or the car manufacturers failed to provide correct document or information to the TD for approval, so a lot of time was spent on the clarification of documents, hence a longer time of approval. In view of this, the TD has already conducted a lot of briefing sessions with the trade, giving them the latest technical information and reducing the time needed to clarify documents. Therefore, the overall time for EV vehicle examination, approval time has been reduced. In general, the approval time takes 90 days, similar to that of fossil fuel vehicles. The TD also, the trade also welcomes the initiatives rolled out by the TD. Ms. Chen Hao-yan, thank you, President. There are more and more EVs in Hong Kong, so I'm more concerned about supporting facilities. There's a serious lack of EV charging stations in the mainland and in overseas places. They have already rolled out new technologies or battery replacement technologies. That is, the battery can be recharged separately. It could be taken out from the vehicle, unlike the existing practice. Will the administration consider adopting similar practice? Will it be suitable in Hong Kong? Secretary. The charging of EVs is close to the heart of members of the public as well as members. There are different charging technologies in the market. I believe the Environment and Ecology Bureau will study these options to decide which ones are suitable to be used in Hong Kong. In relation to charging facilities, the EEB, the Development Bureau, and the Transport and Logistics Bureau have already set up a task force. We want to expedite the approval process for having more EV charging stations and iron out their difficulties at the same time. We want to provide more supporting facilities in order to expedite the popularization of EVs. Dr. Kennedy Wong. Thank you, President. According to the TD, EVs account for some 70% of the sales of all new cars. Most of the EVs imported into Hong Kong are from the mainland. The administration said that reference could be drawn from GB in relation to the examination of the vehicle construction. What about the plug of the battery of EVs? The plugs used are different. So for the northbound travel scheme, you need to change to another plug when you go north. So will you adopt the entire set of GB standards, including the charger? Secretary, thank you, President. Apart from China-made EVs, we also welcome EVs manufactured in different countries. They can be imported into Hong Kong. Regarding charging issues or policies, of course, they will be under the purview of the EEB, but we do want to accommodate different charging technologies. Where there are new EV charging stations or technologies, we hope there could be more plugs, thereby providing more options for the members of the public. Mr. Luk Chung Hong, thank you, President. I'm also driving a China-made NEV. Apart from pure EVs, our country is also very efficient. Right now, some of the vehicles manufactured by China could not enjoy 141 tax concession. For example, WLTP 100 kilometers, or the motor efficiency, when the motor efficiency reaches a high level of chargeable hybrid vehicle, could they enjoy 141 tax concessions, thereby providing more options for members of the public to choose a certain type of vehicles manufactured by our country? Well, this issue is under the purview of the EEB. Up till 2035, by 2035, some types of vehicles cannot be registered in Hong Kong. That is, the hybrids and another type of vehicles cannot be registered in Hong Kong. Mr. Adrian Ho. Thank you, President. The allowance will have an impact on the future of NEVs. With the new policies, how can the administration ensure different car manufacturers will continue to proactively develop their products in Hong Kong, while at the same time maintaining the internationalization of Hong Kong, so that Hong Kong can continue to popularize the use of EVs? Secretary. Thank you, President. As I mentioned, policies in relation to the popularization of EVs is under the purview of the EEB. On the use of EVs, we want to make it compatible. That is, we want to include not only China-made EVs, we do want to include other EVs as well. We want to be inclusive in this connection. So apart from the brands or the makes, it's important to enhance the appeal of EVs per se. It's not just about the amount of the allowance. The amount of allowance depends on the selling price of cars. Dr. Chow Man Kong. Thank you, President. Mr. Chen's question is close to the heart of many drivers. In the principal reply, both GB and European standards are also accepted, but the transportation system will limit the registration of left-hand drive vehicles. Well, I do need to read through the entire question and reply. Will the registration and importation of left-hand drive vehicles be affected? Will they be limited? The cost is high, and the usage rate is much lower than that in the mainland. We have northbound travel scheme. We also have some vehicles from the mainland moving southwards. So will the administration consider my proposal? President, our current practice, is it the traffic infrastructures and traffic management measures mainly target right-hand drive vehicles? So in terms of road use, we mainly cater to right-hand drive vehicles. In special circumstances, when certain conditions are imposed, we also allow left-hand drive vehicles in Hong Kong. Regarding which type of vehicles is the most popular in Hong Kong, I believe this is also close to the heart of the car manufacturers. Japan and Southeast Asian markets are also very active in right-hand drive vehicle market, so it's not that difficult for them to make adjustments. Will they cater to the needs of Hong Kong? I do think we need to think from a wider perspective.
Question for Mr. Chan Pui-leung. The Hong Kong Monetary Authority and the Bank of Thailand launched the FPS and Prompt Pay link for cross-border QR payment between Hong Kong and Thailand, which will be referred to as the Payment Connectivity Initiative below in December last year. Travelers from Thailand and Hong Kong can make retail payments by using the relevant mobile payment applications to scan the FPS QR codes displayed by Hong Kong merchants and the Prompt Pay QR codes displayed by Thai merchants respectively. In this connection, will the government inform this council, one, of the number of Thai merchants providing the relevant payment means and the transaction amount involved since the implementation of the Payment Connectivity Initiative, the estimated growth in the number of such merchants and the transaction amount this year. 2. As it's learned that under the Payment Connectivity Initiative, Hong Kong travelers in Thailand can only make payments by scanning the QR codes provided by 5 designated Thai banks, while Thai travelers in Hong Kong can only make payments by using the payment applications of 3 designated Thai banks, whether the authorities will discuss with BOT an increase in the number of Thai banks and relevant operators participating in the Payment Connectivity Initiative to attract more travelers to use the payment means. If so, of the details, if not, the reasons for that. And 3, as it's been reported that the number of Hong Kong travelers to mainland is increasing, but not many of them use the means of payment connectivity, of the authorities' measures in place to step up efforts to publicize the payment means? Secretary for Financial Services and the Treasury. President, the government is committed to promoting the development of e-payment and providing the public with safe, efficient, convenient, and diversified e-payment options by enhancing financial infrastructure and implementing a robust regulatory regime. Hong Kong has a well-developed e-payment ecosystem with a number of non-cash payment options available to the public. In September 2018, the Hong Kong Monetary Authority, or HKMA, launched the Faster Payment System, FPS, to support safe, convenient, and efficient retail payments. The government and the HKMA are committed to expanding the application of FPS, which has now expanded from person-to-person transactions to merchant payments, top-up transactions, government bill payments, etc. On the 4th of December 2023, the HKMA and the Bank of Thailand, BOT, launched the FPS and Prompt Pay link for cross-border QR payment. Visitors from Thailand and Hong Kong are able to make retail payments by using mobile banking or e-wallet applications that support the service to scan the Hong Kong FPS QR code and Thai Prompt Pay QR code displayed by merchants respectively, providing visitors from both places with a safe and convenient cross-border retail payment means. In consultation with the HKMA, my reply to the 3 parts of the question is as follows. 1. Through the FPS and Prompt Pay link, visitors from Hong Kong may now make payments via FPS at around 8.7 million merchants in Thailand, including large shopping malls, department stores, supermarkets, duty-free shops, restaurants, public transport, etc. In Thailand, the average transaction amount under the FPS and Prompt Pay link is currently below 200 Hong Kong dollars, such as payments for restaurants and retail stores, convenience stores, coffee shops, and so on. And the usage usage is particularly significant during weekends and long holidays. There are also some transactions of medium to high value, such as payments for high-end restaurants, dental care, and golf classes, with the highest single transaction amount reaching nearly 10,000 Hong Kong dollars. The HKMA and the BOT will continue to encourage more merchants in Hong Kong and Thailand to take part in the FPS and Prompt Pay link, with a view to providing greater convenience to visitors from both places. 2. At present, the participating institutions of the FPS and Prompt Pay link are major financial institutions in Hong Kong and mainland. Regarding payments made by Hong Kong visitors in Thailand, FPS users of 7 local banks and 2 stored value facility or SVF operators can now scan the Prompt Pay payment codes provided by 5 participating banks in Thailand to make payments, covering over 90% of the Prompt Pay merchants in Thailand. As for Thai visitors making payments in Hong Kong, Prompt Pay users of 3 major retail banks in Thailand can now make payments at all merchants in Hong Kong that provide FPS payment code. Financial institutions in the 2 places will decide whether to take part in the FPS and Prompt Pay link, having regard to factors including their respective development directions and resource deployment. The HKMA and the BOT will continue to actively promote the FPS and Prompt Pay link to banks and SVF operators in the 2 places. It is anticipated that more financial institutions will join in the future. 3. The FPS and Prompt Pay link has been well received by Hong Kong visitors to Thailand since its launch, according to the figures from Thailand. In January this year, Hong Kong ranked the 3rd in terms of payment volume in cross-border QR code payments in Thailand, only after Malaysia and Indonesia, which had far more visitors to Thailand than Hong Kong. To further promote the FPS and Prompt Pay link, the HKMA has launched a series of publicity campaigns, including on-site filming of education videos in Thailand to introduce the procedure of using FPS and points to note, organizing targeted promotion during the peak seasons for travel, including Christmas last year and Lunar New Year this year, producing short animations and print advertisements for publicizing on the dedicated pages of the HKMA and the travel-related social media platforms before and after Easter and the Thai New Year holidays in 2024. Hong Kong financial institutions participating in the FPS and Prompt Pay link have also introduced different promotional offers such as cash rebates, lucky draws, and exchange rate discounts with a view to attracting Hong Kong visitors to use the cross-border QR code payment service in Thailand. In addition, the HKMA and the Hong Kong Interbank Clearing Limited, which is responsible for operating the FPS system, have provided information and frequently asked questions regarding the FPS and Prompt Pay link on their respective websites, enabling the public to have an in-depth understanding of the detailed arrangement as well as enhancing the public awareness of the service. Thank you. Mr. Chan Pui-leung. Many people, when they plan for their trips overseas, they look at the exchange rates, and when the exchange rates are low, they go to exchange currency shops to exchange currencies. And Prompt Pay, it also looks at the exchange rate. I wonder if the administration has thought about the competitiveness of the processing fee as well as the exchange rate offered. Secretary. Thank you, President. As mentioned, it's just been a few months since the launch of the FPS and Prompt Pay link. We have been paying attention to the feedback of users and market reactions. According to our statistics, we see that the exchange rate offered has been competitive, but we will continue to pay attention to the development of the market so that it can facilitate our further promotion of wider adoption of the FPS and Prompt Pay link. Mr. Kenneth LAU, I want to ask whether the government has plans to further promote this payment connectivity initiative to more countries. Secretary, we collaborate with Thailand this time, and this laid a solid foundation for more cross-border payment scenarios in the future. So we'll explore establishing a similar cross-border payment system with other countries. So through this experience, we'll think about how we can promote a similar initiative in other places in the world. Dr. Tan Yue-heng. Thank you, President. Safety is the top concern as we use the FPS payment system. Since the launch of the FPS and Prompt Pay link, are there any fraud cases? Any complaints in this regard since the launch of the link? Thank you, President. As we launch payment systems, we attach importance to the safety of the system. I will first talk about the safety of transaction for the FPS and Prompt Pay link. Participating institutions are regulated by central banks of the two places under this scheme. So, regulators will have to look at the safety risks involved, for instance, the authentication or verification as well as transaction amount limit. The regulators will have to look at whether the relevant requirements are satisfied to ensure safety. This will offer comprehensive protection to users of this link. I'd also like to give you some information in relation to protection measures. For instance, the maximum transaction limit daily is $10,000 Hong Kong dollars. SVF operators and banks may set a lower limit if they want. For the mobile apps of some participating institutions, they allow users to adjust the daily transaction limit to ensure safety. Also, before the usage of this system, there needs to be a verification of identity. So far, we haven't seen any participating institutions violating the requirements or regulations imposed by the two central banks. We will continue to look at the level of safety or safety risks involved. Thank you. Mr. Chen Kin-po, according to the administration, this January, Hong Kong ranked the third in terms of payment volume in cross-border QR code payments in Thailand. Well, the FPS and Prompt Pay link is a very useful tool for travelers. Are there any plans for the administration to further expand the scheme or initiative? Secretary. We are looking at the experience we've accumulated. We are in talks with different governments of different places as to whether there is any timetable or whether we're going to prioritize any countries, since it involves discussions between the SAR government and other central banks. I'm afraid I won't be able to disclose any details right now, but we will make relevant announcements in due course. Mr. Yim Kong. Thank you, President. In Hong Kong, the deposit of RMB is as high as $1 trillion in Hong Kong. Will the SAR government discuss with Thailand to expand this initiative to RMB? Secretary. Thank you, President. We make use of the FPS system and this is a very important tool for us to expand cross-border payment with the mainland. We are working on expanding the adoption of eCNY and FPS in the mainland. The HKMA has been working with PBOC on the expansion of ECNY adoption. Earlier this year, 4 RMB or ECNY operators and 18 banks in Hong Kong have completed the relevant trials, and they have, through FPS, to top up CNY wallets. And merchants that took part in the trial include retail stores, restaurants, and other shops. So the overall trial ran very smoothly. As for the next step, HKMA will continue to work with PBOC to expand the adoption of ECNY in Hong Kong to support more institutions from both places to use ECNY. Dr. Simon Lee. Thank you, President. I'm happy to see that there is such a trial. However, the trial focused on transactions of small spending value. Has the SAR government taken stock on any experience? And would it be possible for this to be applied in transactions of higher spending volume? Secretary. As mentioned, we've just launched the FPS and Prompt Pay link for some 4 months now. On one hand, the HKMA will continue to step up promotion and publicity. We'll do this through on 2 fronts. We will promote this to merchants to satisfy the needs of users from Thailand. Also, we will work with the BOT to promote this to people in Thailand so that this can see wider adoption. Currently, participating merchants are from different sectors. If we can expand the adoption of the link to, for instance, applications and scenarios involving transaction of higher value, then we will see a higher usage of the FPS and Prompt Pay link, and more people will benefit from this scheme. And this is the major direction that we're heading towards. Mr. Ronick Chen. Thank you, President. E-payment has been popular. This is because people want to save the trouble of using credit cards for transactions of high value. Well, the FPS and Prompt Pay link involves 2 places. So Hong Kong and Thailand have been promoting this. And Octopus Card is also involved in this scheme. And this does not require the scanning of QR code. I believe elderly people will opt for Octopus Cards instead of scanning QR code. How are you going to promote the use of Octopus Card so that people know that not only FPS is involved, but also people can use Octopus Card in Thailand to pay for their purchases? Secretary. Member was right. In Hong Kong, there are different types of e-payment options. QR code is one type, Octopus Card as well, contactless credit card as well. So there are many e-payment options in Hong Kong. Currently in Hong Kong, according to market survey, over 90% of transactions involve e-payment. In Thailand, the FPS and Prompt Pay link involve 2 systems. For Prompt Pay, it involves QR code. That's why it requires the scanning of QR code. As for Octopus Card payment, well, the Octopus Card Limited is also promoting the use of Octopus Cards. So we adopt an open mind. We want to provide different e-payment options for our people. That's my first point. Secondly, Octopus Card Limited recently rolled out the Octopus Card scheme that can be used in the entire country. And this type of octopus card can be used in over 336 cities on the mainland and over 38,000 bus routes. And we want to continue to promote the application of cross-border payment and e-payment. Thank you. Ms. Nixie Lam, according to information, Standard Chartered is not one of the participating banks in the FPS and Prompt Pay Link, but the bank is highly involved in the Southeast Asian market. I want to ask whether the administration will increase the number of participating banks. Secretary, as mentioned in my major reply, this is a commercial decision of commercial banks, and banks or institutions from the two places will decide based on the resources they have and other factors to decide whether they want to take part in the FPS and Prompt Pay Link. From the government and HKMA's perspectives, we want to encourage more institutions to take part in the initiative. With more participating institutions, we are able to bring more convenience to our people. So we will actively promote the FPS and Prompt Pay Link. I believe that in the future, there will be more financial institutions taking part in the initiative. With more experience, we are able to share it with the sector, and it will boost the confidence of the industry, and that will encourage more people to use the link. Mr. Lai Tong Kwok. Thank you, President. I'd like to ask about your promotional efforts. You mentioned in your reply that the relevant institutions, they produce short videos and so on to promote the FPS and Prompt Pay Link. Did you target Hong Kong travelers going to Thailand or Thai people coming to Hong Kong? For instance, if we want to travel to Thailand, we need to buy air tickets. Have you talked to the relevant travel agencies or relevant airline companies? Have you asked them to play the short videos produced, for instance, on the plane? If you work harder in this regard, I believe you will get better results. Secretary. Thank you, President. I agree to what the member said. As we promote for the FPS and Prompt Pay Link, we target travelers traveling from Thailand to Hong Kong or the other way around. I mentioned about making use of social media platforms to release the relevant information. And financial institutions also offer different discounts, like exchange rate discounts to users. During peak travel seasons, we also launch focused promotional campaigns. Thank you.
Question 5, Mr. Robert Lee. President, there are views that to enhance the global competitiveness and attractiveness of Hong Kong's capital market, the government and regulators have to adopt a multi-pronged approach, including taking forward reforms, exploring new markets, and promoting diversified development of the market. In this connection, will the government inform this council first whether it will urge the Hong Kong exchanges and clearing limits to actively study the dropping of the board lot requirement and review the fees and charges related to board lots, and to study with the mainland regulators the lowering of the income tax on dividends and bonuses for investors who engage in southbound trading under the Southbound Stock Connect so as to attract mainland capital to Hong Kong stocks. Second, whether it will explore with HKEX improvements to the delisting mechanism, including not taking a hard line on listed enterprises undergoing business change or transformation or making hasty decisions to cancel their listings, with a view to assisting such enterprises in maintaining their avenues for financing and learn from overseas practices to launch a Hong Kong version of the over-the-counter trading platform so that stocks of delisted enterprises can still be traded. If not, of the reasons for that. And third, of the new measures in place to attract capital to Hong Kong from emerging market countries with good potential and relatively less prior contact with Hong Kong, and promote reciprocal investment and financial market cooperation, including the development of more bond products, dovetailing with the characteristics of emerging market countries, exchange-traded funds, cross-listings, and precious metals products, thereby opening up new opportunities for Hong Kong's financial services sector. Secretary for Financial Services and the Treasury. President, the government is committed to driving efforts of the Hong Kong Exchanges and Clearing Limited and the Securities and Futures Commission to continuously enhance the listing platform so as to attract different types of enterprises and investors from the mainland and overseas to take part in investment and fundraising and financing in Hong Kong. This will let Hong Kong serve its function as an international fundraising and financing center and foster its diverse and sustainable development. In consultation with the SFC and HKEX, I give my reply to the three parts of the question as follows. 1. The securities market currently uses lot as a single trading unit, and the number of shares per lot is determined by the issuer. We are aware of views of the market that this arrangement lacks consistency and may pose obstacles to retail investors' entry into the market. Nevertheless, some believe that the current arrangement has been widely accepted by the market, and issuers also have mechanisms in place to adjust the lot size through stock split and mergers. Therefore, any fundamental change to the trading mechanism will have a great impact on investors, intermediaries, and other service providers, such as custodians. In this respect, HKEX will comprehensively examine the stock trading unit arrangement and related market impact and review relevant matters, including the board lot arrangement. Since HKEX and the SFC are currently reviewing the stock bid-ask spread, and a determination on both the trading unit and the bid-ask spread will affect market trading mechanisms. HKEX will first present the review outcome of the bid-ask spread for market consultation in the second quarter of 2024 and start examining the trading unit as the next step. On mutual access between the Hong Kong and mainland financial market, the government and regulators have remained closely in touch with relevant mainland authorities and institutions to continuously deepen the interaction and integration of the capital market of the two places. With the strong support of the Central People's Government, enhancement measures and new products were introduced under the Mutual Market Access Program in 2023, including the expansion of eligible stocks under Stock Connect, introduction of northbound trading of Swap Connect. On this basis, we will continue to explore with the mainland arrangement, further expanding and enhancing the mutual access mechanisms, and study recommendations for facilitating two-way capital flows with the mainland, including the feasibility of enhancing relevant tax arrangements. Specific measures will be announced as and when they are ready. 2. Apart from striving to enhance the breadth and depth of the securities market, we also set great store by improving the quality of listed issuers with a view to safeguarding investors' interest. The purpose of HKEX's existing delisting mechanism is to achieve the systematic and timely delisting of issuers that no longer meet the continuing listing criteria, and to incentivize suspended issuers to act promptly to achieve resumption by addressing the fundamental issues involved in the trading suspension. If HKEX thinks an issuer fails to meet the continuing listing criteria after comprehensive consideration, it will suspend the relevant share trading in accordance with the listing rules and issue resumption guidance to the issuer. It will give the issuer 18 months to recomply with the requirements. Failure to meet the resumption conditions within the time limit, such as business volume still not meeting the minimum requirements, audited financial results not released, internal controls found to be seriously deficient. This means the listing division of HKEX will recommend that the listing committee consider the listing of the issuer's shares to maintain the Hong Kong market reputation. HKEX understands that the regional economy is now in the cycle of adjustments and will make comprehensive assessment having regard to the individual circumstances of issuers when enforcing relevant provisions. The transfer of shares of delisted companies that is, transferring shares of unlisted companies over the counter, is governed by the relevant corporate laws of the place where those companies are registered, as well as those companies' articles of association. If a listed company's listed status is involuntarily revoked, its delisted shares are deemed no longer suitable for trading by general investors on a recognized exchange. Although such shares cannot be traded on the securities market, transactions can be completed through share transfers in accordance with the existing legal framework and execution mechanism. We will work with the HKEX as we continue to monitor market developments in relevant situations. 3. The government, the SFC, and HKEX are committed to attracting companies of different sizes and with growth potential from around the world, including emerging markets along the Belt and Road such as the Middle East and ASEAN, to list and raise funds in Hong Kong for business expansion. Notably, HKEX signed a memorandum of understanding with the Saudi Tadawul Group and another with the Indonesia Stock Exchange in 2023, exploring cooperation opportunities such as cross-listings in the two places, joint product development, etc. HKEX also included the Saudi Exchange and the Indonesia Stock Exchange on its list of recognized stock exchanges, allowing companies listed on their main boards to apply for secondary listing in Hong Kong. The SFC authorized new types of exchange-traded funds, including Asia's first and the world's largest ETF investing in Saudi Arabia listed stocks, as well as the first batch of active ETFs, which adopt the strategy to sell covered call options. The two types of ETFs were listed in Hong Kong in last November and this February, respectively, giving investors more choices. The SFC and HKEX will continue to enrich the product ecosystem in Hong Kong securities market, meeting investors' diverse investment needs and supporting the local financial services industry in exploring new opportunities. Finally, to further promote Hong Kong's fundraising platform to overseas enterprises and capital, HKEX is preparing for various major promotion activities in the coming year, including jointly organizing different thematic flagship summits with organizations in the Middle East and Southeast Asia. It will also take part in different outreach efforts, including deepening the coverage of overseas markets and introducing the strengths of Hong Kong listing platform through speeches, forum exchanges, and roadshows. The SFC is also actively exploring possible exploration in the asset management space with regulators in the Middle East and ASEAN markets. It supports Hong Kong's fund managers to actively explore distributing their funds to those markets through different channels, thereby seizing the opportunities of business expansion and helping the local asset management sector to diversify capital sources and their investor base. The government will strengthen external promotion efforts in the coming year to publicize the latest developments and opportunities of Hong Kong's financial services sectors. We will work through the Office for Attracting Strategic Enterprises, Invest Hong Kong, and the Economic and Trade offices in the mainland overseas as we give assistance to enterprises. And we will also enhance interactions with those enterprises by holding more mega events and tell good stories of Hong Kong. Mr. Robert Lee. To help the sector tap new markets, especially markets with less prior contact, would there be a list of eligible legal entities covering those markets? Because we know that those lists don't cover Southeast Asia and the Middle East yet. We attach importance to attracting more capital and enterprises from overseas, especially places like the Middle East, to make it easier for overseas issuers to be listed in Hong Kong. In January 2022, enhancements were rolled out, and this meant greater flexibility for issuers. There were also safeguards for core shareholders. This made it easier for overseas issuers to come to Hong Kong. This also helped attract more quality issuers from ASEAN and the Middle East. Last September and November, Tadawul from Saudi Arabia and the Indonesia Stock Exchange were incorporated onto the recognized list of stock exchanges. So we can have companies listed there to come here for secondary listing. We note the members' comment about our policies. We will adopt different means to enhance our mechanisms to attract more overseas firms, including those from ASEAN and the Middle East, to seek listing in Hong Kong. institutional changes aside, we will also focus on publicity. We have different major publicity efforts. There will be road shows, thematic summits in ASEAN and the Middle East. We will continue to work on those two markets to get them to use our financing and fundraising platform. So there will be publicity and institutional arrangements. Mr. Holden Chow. At the panel meeting, HKEX told us in the first quarter this year, 65 enterprises were preparing for listing in Hong Kong. Let's promote this message to keep the public informed of the latest situation. The main reply says that the stock exchanges of Saudi Arabia and Indonesia are already on the list of recognized stock exchanges. We have also signed an MOU with Dubai. We talked about dual listing. When will we put the Dubai Stock Exchange on our list of recognized exchange markets so that we can have more secondary listing? Secretary. As I said in my previous reply, we're working to attract enterprises from different places, including Southeast Asia and the Middle East. We're working on the deal with Dubai. We will not stop at Indonesia and Saudi Arabia. We will talk to more markets and follow up with those markets, including Dubai. Mr. Edmund Wong. Thank you, President. On making our stock market more attractive, one factor to bear in mind is to lower the transaction cost. Last November, the government lowered the stamp duty, but we simply brought that level back to the level before the rise, and that's 0.1% on both the buyer and seller, so 0.2% in total. To make ourselves more attractive, are there plans to further reduce our stamp duty? If so, when? Secretary. Thank you. As the member noted, we lowered the transaction related stamp duty to 0.1%. The stock stamp duty is among the key revenue sources for the government. So we need to ensure revenue for the government, and we need to strike a balance involving that and market development. The attractiveness of a stock market is more than just the stamp duty. It's also about the cost of investment. We don't have a capital gains tax in Hong Kong, no dividend tax for our stock market. So our stock market is competitive. We will also explore different ways to boost our competitiveness. The SFC and HKEX will explore waiving the stamp duty for certain products and market makers to foster the development of those areas. If there's any update, we will consult the market to further lower transaction costs. HKEX and other regulators are looking at narrowing the spreads to reduce the bid-ask spreads. This can reflect the dynamic market condition, and this can reduce the indirect transaction costs for investors. Our target is to start a market consultation in the second quarter this year. Dr. Tan Yue-heng. Thank you, President. In 2014, the Shanghai Stock Exchange started. This year marks the 10th anniversary of the mutual market access schemes. The schemes have been deepened over the years, and they have contributed to Hong Kong's development. We need to make our capital markets more attractive. Mutual market access is the way to go. And one area to look at is an IPO Connect. We need to let mainland investors who take part in Hong Kong's IPOs. We slipped in rankings for IPO because We don't have people subscribing to the IPOs here. What are the obstacles holding back the launch of an IPO Connect? What's the plan for the next step? Secretary. The government attaches importance to expanding the mutual market access schemes. We're looking to deepening those schemes and enhance interaction of the Hong Kong market and the mainland market. We will work closely with the mainland regulators. We have noted the views from the Hong Kong market, and we have passed those views to the mainland regulators on expanding and enhancing the mutual market access schemes, and that includes views about an IPO Connect. Every suggestion about expanding those mutual access schemes will involve policy considerations, not just in Hong Kong, but also on the mainland. Our discussions focus on further enhancing the Stock Connect schemes and also giving more options in terms of risk management for overseas investors. And we're also looking at the southbound trading of the Bond Connect and also the development of the ecosystem involving fixed income of offshore RMB businesses. We passed the views from the local market to the mainland. The mainland takes into account all the factors, and when we consider the factors, and then we roll out measures as and when they are ready. Mr. Chan Pui-leung. To reinvigorate our capital market, we need to tap new markets. So my question is, does the government have plans to develop more financial products targeting the Middle East, such as RMB-denominated Islamic bonds, green bonds, and also gold-related products, so that we can bring in capital from ASEAN and the Middle East? Secretary. Thank you. We can see one matter is close to the hearts of members and us, and that is exploring the ASEAN and the Middle East markets. Last year, we had the first ETF investing in Saudi Arabian stocks. That ETF was listed in Hong Kong last year. The Monetary Authority of Hong Kong is talking to the sector, and we're discussing the listing of an ETF in the Middle East. That ETF will track Hong Kong stocks. We are going through the consultation, and we are trying to get an asset manager to manage the ETF. That asset manager needs to secure approval from the regulators. The infrastructure also needs to be in place. So we are working actively on the design and the regulatory approval for that ETF. The groundwork is being laid. The member mentioned Islamic finance or Islamic bonds. In 2013 and 14, the SAR government amended our legislation, providing for a tax framework for Islamic bonds similar to conventional bonds. In 2014, 15, and 17, on 3 occasions under the government bond program, we issued Islamic bonds equivalent to $23.4 billion Hong Kong dollars of different tenures and characteristics. So that was a demonstration to encourage more bond issuing bodies and investors to take part in Hong Kong's capital market. Those issuances showed investors that we can accommodate the issuance of Islamic bonds in Hong Kong. Now, I want to comment on Islamic finance. Islamic finance is more than just Islamic bonds. There are different products in Islamic finance already on offer in Hong Kong. There are global Islamic bonds on offer in Hong Kong, Islamic funds. There are also different kinds of Islamic financial products. There's a whole spectrum of them on offer in Hong Kong. We will leverage our strength and promote our business in the Middle East.
The last question seeking an oral reply. The Honorable SHIU Ka-fai. Thank you, President. The Enhanced Supplementary Labor Scheme, ESLS, which has accepted applications since 4th of September last year, covers 26 job categories normally excluded from the Supplementary Labor Scheme, and such coverage arrangement will last for 2 years. Under the ESLS, if imported workers are mainland residents, employers may opt to provide them with accommodation in Hong Kong or on the mainland, or arrange them to reside in their residential premises on the mainland. In this connection, will the government inform this Council, 1. Of the following information on ESLS to date, the number of applications received and the number of workers involved, the number of applications approved and the number of workers involved, and the respective numbers of mainland workers who are provided with accommodation on the mainland by their employers and arranged to return to reside in their residential premises on the mainland on the same day after work, with a tabulated breakdown by the aforesaid 26 job categories. 2. In respect of jobs other than the above 26 job categories, how the numbers of applications made and approved for importation of workers and the number of workers involved compared before and after the launch of ESLS. And 3, whether it has considered further improving the mechanisms and procedures involved in making applications under ESLS, as well as vetting and approving ESLS applications, if so, of the details, if not, the reasons for that. Secretary for Labour and Welfare. President, to cope with the challenges brought by manpower shortage, the government has enhanced the mechanism for importation of workers on the premise of safeguarding the employment priority for local workers. Apart from launching sector-specific labour import schemes for the construction sector, transport sector, and residential care homes for the elderly and residential care homes for persons with disabilities, the Labour Department has enhanced the coverage and operation of the SLS in the past, including suspending the general exclusion of 26 job categories in Annex 1 and unskilled, low-skilled posts from labour importation for 2 years. The reply to the members' question is as follows. 1. Since launch of the ESLS on 4th of September 2023 and as at 31st of March 2024, 3,701 applications seeking to import 37,377 workers were received under ESLS. Of these applications, 29,190 imported workers intended to take up posts which were generally excluded from the labour importation before. During the same period, 964 applications seeking to import 5,134 workers were approved under ESLS, including 2,318 were approved to take up posts which were generally excluded from labour importation in the past. A breakdown of the numbers of imported workers applied for and approved by the above 26 job categories is at Annex 2. In addition, apart from the approved applications as at 31st of March 2024, 993 applications in respect of those received after the launch of ESLS had started or completed the local recruitment exercise, seeking to import 11,886 workers. The LD expects that the vetting of most of these applications will be completed in the second quarter of this year, where the exact number approved will depend on the results of local recruitment and the application details of the cases. If the imported workers are mainland residents, employers may opt to provide accommodation in Hong Kong or on the mainland for the imported workers, or allow the imported workers to reside in their residential premises on the mainland. LD does not maintain a breakdown of the accommodation arrangement for imported workers. 2. From 1st of January 2023 to the 3rd of September 2023, the numbers of imported workers applied for and approved under SLS, the old scheme, were 8,072 and 2,139 respectively. Since the launch of ESLS on 4th of December 2023 and as at 31st of March 2024, applications for importing 8,187 workers taking up posts covered by the SLS in the past were received under ESLS, and 2,860 imported workers were approved. As ESLS does not accept applications for importation of workers from employers covered by sector-specific labor importation schemes, the figures are not directly comparable with those of SLS. 3. LD has been closely monitoring the operation of ESLS and striving for continuous improvements and the execution. LD has launched a dedicated website to introduce the features of ESLS and uploaded the list of common posts covering the median, monthly wage, working hours, entry requirements, and duties of 156 common posts in different industries for employers' reference. As at 31st of March 2024, LD had organized 44 briefings for employers on ESLS and the points to note about submission of applications. To further improve the workflow of processing applications, LD will shortly introduce the following new measures. An application form for common posts will be introduced next month. If an employer uses the new application form and fills in the information specified in the list of common posts, the processing time will be shortened. 2. Apart from briefings for employers, LD will also organize briefings for employment agencies involved in labor importation matters and explain the application arrangements for ESLS to facilitate employment agencies to assist employers on application handling. 3. LD will exercise flexibility in the handling of recruitment advertisements placed by employers during local recruitment and remind them to report to the LD the interview results as soon as possible. And 4. Through internal deployment of staff, will vet applications submitted by employers as soon as possible and provide advice on information of relevant applications. LD will continue to closely monitor ESLS, safeguard the employment priority for local workers, improve the processing of applications. Thank you, President. Mr. Peter Shiu. Thank you, Chairman. Secretary, starting from last year to now, a lot of Hong Kong people know that we have difficulties in recruiting workers, and the latest unemployment rate is 2.9%, is represents full employment. I thank the government for launching the ESLS to import workers from outside, but from 4th of September last year up to the 31st of March in Annex 2, for the 26 job categories, 19,927 workers have been applied for, but only 1,998 workers are approved to be imported, so around 10%. So given this speed, it doesn't help with the shortage of workers in Hong Kong. Secretary, we have the sector-specific importation schemes, including security guards, say elderly care, construction and transport sectors. They have a quota. So would you consider that for, say, the catering industry and the retail industry, they will be included in this as sector-specific labor importation schemes where quota will be given to them and the procedures will be streamlined as well? Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Shiu. After the ESLS has been launched, well, it's been some 7 months on, and we have received quite a number of applications, over 30,000 applications for those in the 26 job categories, and also the skilled and unskilled workers is around 29,000 or so in number. Now, since we have just launched this scheme, we might have to make adjustment to the scheme. So for the 26 job categories and also the low-skilled and non-skilled workers, 2,000 or so workers were approved to be imported. In the second quarter, we believe that we will be able to process 11,000 applications. So most of them belong to the 26 job categories and also those in the unskilled and low-skilled categories. Why? Because we have streamlined the procedures. We, based on experience, we spent a lot of time in handling posts which are not uncommon. So based on experience, we have come up with a list of 156 common posts, and we give information on the duties, the work hours, and the median monthly wage, and so on. So if they use this common form, that will help with speeding up the entire process. And employers may spend a lot of time in, say, on the job recruitment advertisements. There might be minor mistakes. And we have been very stringent on the requirements in relation to the recruitment advertisements. Now we are relaxing our requirements a bit. If there are minor mistakes, we will allow them. We also allow employers to place advertisements on electronic platforms. So we'd like to speed up the process. So that will be a big difference in the number of applications approved in the next quarter compared to the previous quarter. We would like to streamline and optimize the procedures as to whether catering and retail sectors will be included in the sector-specific labor importation schemes. We don't have a plan. These are only for the 3 sectors mentioned by the member. Dr. Wendy Hong, there are a number of people who are waiting for the issue of one-way permit. They may be spouses of Hong Kong people, and they are now residing in Hong Kong on 2-way permits. These group of people are familiar with Hong Kong society, and they do live in Hong Kong. And sooner or later, they will become Hong Kong permanent residents. Now, they don't have an ID card now. They can't work, so they are in dire difficulties. Now, when we are facing labor shortage, will we give priority to this group of people for joining the workforce so that they can fend for themselves and they can also contribute to the society? So what you're thinking on that proposal now? Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Hong, for your question. We have talked about this previously. Apart from talking to Dr. Hong, I have also communicated with people who are very concerned about these 2-way permit holders, who are mainly women in the 30s and 40s. We've talked about this. They can't work in Hong Kong, but then through the labor importation scheme, they can go back to the mainland and then come back to Hong Kong as in the capacity of imported workers. I don't think priority should be given to them because local employers have to assess their suitability. They are no Hong Kong permanent resident. If they want to come to Hong Kong through our import scheme, they are allowed to do so, and we will give them assistance. Now, as to whether employers will consider them, I think we should treat everybody in the same way. The employers can make their own choices. Mr. Tommy Chang. Thank you, President. Secretary, Mr. Peter Shiu and I would like to thank you for this labor importation scheme. It's not an easy task. But last year, I've told you that the procedures have to be very fast because for the catering industry, from the December to March is our peak season. And then after that period, business will be a bit slow. Now, this is the figures asked in the first question. Mr. Peter Shiu would like you to include catering and retail in the sector-specific program. For the aviation industry, well, we have a quota of 2,800, and 1,800 people have got the visa to come to Hong Kong. So they are just 2 months ahead of us. But in the annex, well, there are number of applications is 6,870, but only 643 people, I'm talking about waiters and waitresses, have been approved. Now, the restaurant owners told me that I have made the application, but people are not coming. I hope that you can really be much faster in the second quarter. In your reply, you said that you would try to make adjustments to the recruitment advertisements, and you will allow for minor mistakes, and then you are allowing media other than newspapers for the recruitment advertisements and so on. Please come to your question, Mr. Zhang. Secretary, can you implement some sea change to the procedure? Because it's been 7 months on, only 10% of the applications have been approved. Can you do something drastic to help and expedite the procedures? Thank you. Secretary. Thank you, Mr. Zhang, for your question. Well, I think we see eye to eye with you. The overriding principle is that we have to safeguard the employment priority for local workers. And there is no room for us to change the 4-week local recruitment drive because the employers have to show to the local workforce that they have done their utmost to recruit local workers. And after 4 weeks they fail to do so, then are they allowed to import workers? And then they may also take on workers referred to them by the trade unions. If everything fails, then they can import workers. Now, as for streamlining or expediting the process, we have learned from experience in the past few months. I think we can really speed up the whole process. Well, in the past 7 months, we have approved some 2,000 applications. In the next 3 months, we envisage that we will be able to handle 11,000. But as to the actual number of applications approved, it depends on the local recruitment exercise and the cases themselves. Now, we are handling mostly the applications for workers in the catering industry, the hotel industry, and the retail industry. Thank you. Mr. Chao Xiu-chung. President, according to the CNSD department, in December 2023, there were some 8,300 vacancies in the catering and hotel industry. Now, in the past 7 months, the number of applications for waiters and junior cooks number over 10,000, and that has not included the hotel workers and so on. Now, according to this proportion, there will be a lot more imported workers coming to Hong Kong, and that will go beyond the demand of the industries, and that will inevitably affect the employment opportunities for local workers. Now, for job categories which are most sought after, would you be putting a ceiling of the number of imported workers to protect local workers? Now, the design of the ESLS is that the local workers will be given priority in employment. How do we do that? After the employers have submitted the applications, they should do a 4-week local recruitment exercise, meaning that if local workers would like to take up the jobs, then the employers should take them on. Now, since we have this safeguard in the process, we are confident that we can protect the local workers and then we can import overseas workers. Now, Mr. Chow referred to the job vacancies. Well, that reflects the intention of the employers in hiring workers at a particular time juncture. Now, well, the employers should take on local workers if they are willing to take up the posts. And after that is done, will they be allowed to import workers? So through the design of this mechanism, we will safeguard the employment priority of local workers. Thank you, President. Mr. Martin Liao. Mr. Martin Liao. President, the government said in the next round of manpower projection will be completed in Q3 of this year. My question is, would you take this opportunity to devise a worker importation overall plan? What about the situation of employment of low-skilled workers and also measures to monitor the employment agencies and so on? Will all these be included in your plan? Thank you, Mr. Liao, for your question. In the next 5 years, we'll be making projections of manpower need up to 2028. Now, the work is going on in full steam, and we've envisaged that the results will be announced as scheduled in Q3. Because we are still working on the data, it's difficult for us to say anything for certain now. Based on our projection results, we will be divide up the job categories into high-end professional jobs, low-skill jobs, and so on. And based on the needs of Hong Kong's being positioned as 8 centers, we will also make detailed analysis to assess which areas are in a shortage of jobs. So based on that, we will be devising the corresponding measures. If local workers cannot fill all the posts, we will import the workers. Mr. Kwok Wai-kang. Mr. Frankie YICK. Thank you. Thank you very much, President. My colleagues in the party said that in the past 7 months, the ratio of approval to applications is at 1/10. In Annex 2, the 7 categories, delivery workers, why is it only 0.26% and 9, category 9, driver, 0? How come that not even one single worker has been approved? Is there any particular reason? Annex 2 is about the ESLS. Mr. YICK may recall that we have implemented the sector-specific labor importation schemes covering transport sectors and including covering the drivers for cross-boundary vehicles and so on. So the figures for that will be reflected in that other program. So that is not reflected in the Annex 2. Because these will be covered or handled in the sector-specific labor importation scheme.
Government bills first reading. Mr. Frankie YICK, all drivers apart from the scheme are not imported. Is that correct? No, it's not the case.
Well, the sector-specific scheme covers land transport, public transport. If they falls outside that scope, then that will be covered under the ESLS.
Government bills first reading. Inland Revenue Amendment Tax Concessions for Intellectual Property Income Bill 2024, Dentists Registration Amendment Bill 2024.